Welcome back. We're here for game 3. Twitch chat continues to ask me intense, crazy, thought-provoking questions, such as, if you could choose between purple or yellow, which would it be? And how many candles can you light with a single match? If you want to join the Twitch chat fun, I stream every Monday with some kind of VOD review in one form or another. Right, let's get into the draft for game 3. Papa Smithy calling me a sellout. It's called promoting oneself, Papa Smithy. Thank you very much. Right. So, Aatrox, Twisted Fate, and Yuumi ban. Now, this is the big adaptation that G2 make in Game 3. They remove Nemesis's Twisted Fate. They say, what have you got? What else can you play? Now, Fnatic themselves ban away the Morgana. This suggests that they were expecting G2 to prioritize the Akali, which means that Fnatic would get themselves the Rakan, and then G2 could once again counter with the Morgana pick. The fact that G2 prioritized the Rakan means that Fnatic are forced to go for the Xayah, so that they can deny the Xayah-Rakan duo. On top of that, they pick Akali themselves, which is the first time Nemesis actually played Akali all split long. G2 then grab themselves the Gragas, so mimicking the draft that we saw from Fnatic in Game 2, and they also pick themselves up the Sylas. Now Sylas you expect to go into the Akali matchup, who is something Caps played multiple times at MSI. He won both sides of the matchup, and ultimately it can be a very good one for the Sylas. Fnatic then round things out with a Thresh. So Thresh, definitely a Hylissang comfort pick, one that's very prominent into the Rakan. I think there is room to outplay the Rakan with the Thresh, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as Thresh just stomps all over Rakan. While I do think that it is Thresh favored, I think that it's also like a skill expression matchup. But I also think that Thresh and Xayah also pair up quite nicely with each other, and overall I think it's like a solid pick. So in terms of what G2 have for themselves so far, a lot of AP damage, but they have good engage, good pick potential, they have strong 1v1 skirmishing. Meanwhile, Fnatic, they're kind of already going more towards the teamfight style. Because they locked in the Thresh, it definitely suggests they're going more of a pick style themselves, so it's going to be a lot of roaming Thresh, as you often expect from Hylissang. Fnatic then ban out AD carries in the form of Ezreal and Lucian, so they take away the safe option. It looks like they're trying to force G2 onto the Kai'Sa bot lane, which is fair, because it guarantees you a strong 2 versus 2. Meanwhile, G2 ban out the Gangplank and the Jax. Now, at the time, I wasn't sure why they banned away the Jax, but it's because they were planning on blind picking the Kled. So Fnatic then go for the Lee Sin. Early game, makes a lot of sense in terms of what Fnatic have already drafted for themselves. Gives you a strong 2v2 mid jungle. It synergizes quite nicely with the Thresh pick down towards bot lane as well, because you have good lane setup. And it's also one of Brox's comfort picks. I think it also does pretty well into the Gragas. So, solid overall. Kai'Sa and Kled then get locked in for G2. No real surprise that the Kai'Sa and Rakan get locked in together. Pretty solid 2v2 bot lane. And then the Kled acts as an engage later on. So now G2's composition has evolved into much more of a team fighting one. So, very similar to what we saw in Game 2. But they're quite heavy in terms of AP damage. Depending on how Perks chooses to build the Kai'Sa, it can vary depending on how much damage he ultimately outputs. However, there's also no real frontline or main tank on the side of Fnatic, because Renekton's still going to build a lot of damage. You know, he's the Black Cleaver, Spirit Sojin, GA, things like this. So I don't think G2 are too stressed about like damage. What's the word? Like variation, I guess, something like that. And then the Kled also acts as engage. So like if you think about it, you know, good engage, good follow up, really easy to attack side lanes. They scale really well because both Sylas and Kai'Sa also scale really well. Kled scaling is always one that's very weird to me. I think his W is quite interesting because I do think that if we look, I'm trying to remember, I'm pretty sure Kled's W does like percentage max health damage. But it's this thing that I think it gets really crazy. So, enters a friendly that grants with 150% bonus attack speed on his next 4 basic attacks, and he does, with the final attack, dealing bonus physical damage. So the bonus physical damage that he does, it like scales plus 5% per 100 of target's maximum health, right? So like, it gets pretty ridiculous, but it's plus 5% per bonus 100 AD. So like you could have like 15% of a target's max health, and even on a squishy carry, that's a lot of damage. Like if you think about it, if you have like 2000 HP on your AD carry and you're getting like 15% by having 200 AD, that is, why is this so hard? That's 300 damage. 300 damage from his 4th auto attack. So I think Kled does scale pretty well into late game. At least I think so. I think he can do like solid damage. He's really difficult to kill because of how much health he has. His remount ability makes him really obnoxious. So I think like that's why I think he's also a pretty safe blind pick, because he does relatively well into a lot of melee matchups. He acts as a really solid engage in the mid game, and I think that his dueling power gets really strong later into the game as well. So it's like, yeah, I think it's really strong. Wait, someone made a good comment. I mean, considering it's bonus AD, that's a 15% added to the 300 damage from the auto itself. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. He's way harder to play late, though. That's fair. I think that's fair. Because he's quite one-dimensional, right, in that he only goes forward. So I can respect that. Even if he does, like, damage, you know, he scales pretty well in terms of damage output and survivability. In terms of executing the champion, he definitely gets harder as the game progresses. In any case, as we talked about, G2 probably begin looking to teamfight a lot. In terms of the early game, they can quite easily play around their bot lane. They do have to be careful because Thresh's Ire is quite obnoxious. The 2v2 mid, I think that once Sylas hits 6, there's room to win it, but before that, I think it's really difficult. And then you can also quite easily play around the Kled lane. I mean, it's always dangerous because of a Renekton. So maybe Gragas doesn't have actually a huge number of options. Actually, looking from this G2 draft, it looks like that in terms of the early game, they actually have to concede a lot, and his main job will be to track and control Lee Sin, who I think in the early game we'll be looking to play around top and mid again. And like you're seeing this trend with Fnatic where over the last 3 games they've been drafting strong top laners that they can easily play around, and they heavily influence the top side of the map too, whereas bot lane is just left on an island to play 2 versus 2. So they typically survive, and it's very difficult to shut down Reckless and Hylissang. However, it is a strategy that Fnatic have been implementing. What's fascinating is when you move into the second half, you see how I think that this shift from Fnatic by not giving Broxer a clear indication of where to focus early ultimately hurts them. But we'll get into that a little bit later. For now, Lee Sin's early game priority will be to play around both top and mid. He can go bot lane if he wants. There's nothing wrong with it. I think you do have good setup with the Thresh as well. The Thresh's Ire, like hook into feathers. It's really strong. Strong early skirmishing. I think Fnatic's team fighting is also decent, but the biggest problem with their comp is that they don't have a huge amount of crowd control available to them, which automatically makes their team fighting difficult. Whereas G2 have a lot of crowd control with the Rakan ultimate, Gragas ultimate. I say lots of crowd control. I think that G2 have an easier way to engage fights, whereas Fnatic don't. I think they also have more options in how they play those fights and how they execute them. And I also think that they do have more AoE CC than Fnatic does. So that's kind of why I give the team fighting edge over to G2, and they scale pretty well as well. I think Kai'Sa's one of the best scaling champions in the game right now. It's always close between AD carries, but Kai'Sa for me is just someone that just does ridiculous amounts of damage. Sorry about that. Okay, so does anyone have any real quick questions about the draft before we get into the longest game of the series? Yeah, just want to reiterate that in terms of early game options, I do think it's quite difficult for G2, because trying to gank a Renekton lane is always a little scary. Trying to gank the Akali will be challenging. And again, trying to gank this bot lane can also be quite difficult. So like, I don't think Gragas has any easy options. State of Sylas versus Akali matchup, I think it used to be really Sylas favored, but now I think it's a little more even. It's a much more of a skill matchup. According to Caps, it used to be a skill matchup anyway, but in my opinion, it was really Sylas favored. But hey, that's just Caps for you. But right now, I think after all the Sylas nerfs, I think it's much more 50-50. That's why Akali's can afford to run Electrocute as well, because it gives you a lot more burst. I wouldn't be surprised if Akali ran Conqueror in this game though. Unless your goal is to just try and one-shot the Kai'Sa, which the Electrocute will help, but if you plan on playing side lane at all versus Kled, Conqueror is probably more valuable. They banned out top lane. They didn't consider Akali would be top. Is it because maybe Nemesis pool isn't too big into them? I think it's mainly just those picks are... So they banned away the Gangplank because it's safe, and it's something Fnatic will almost always play. And I think they banned away Jax because they wanted to play Kled. So because Akali can be flexed, it makes more sense to just ban away the things that you're afraid of. Sylas is a good matchup into the Akali. If they pick something else into the Sylas, they're thinking, well, Sylas is safe enough that he's fine, so we don't need to ban anywhere. Like, Sylas doesn't have any matchups where he loses so hard, the game is over. Whereas Kled, apparently, they go, yeah, well, I don't want to play against Jax, because if I play against the Jax, I'm going to be obliterated. And also, as we see in Game 5, I think Kled is actually quite a good matchup into the Akali. I think so, anyway. I honestly don't know, but when I watched Wonder play it, it looked pretty Kled favored. So, do you think that Thresh is a reliable engage tool? No, I don't. Not at all. But I think it's strong for lane, and I think that it's great at finding picks with Lee Sin and Renekton, which is very much how Fnatic like to play these days. Less about team fighting and more about finding picks. And the Gragas, is it just them not wanting to put Jankos in Sedge duty? No, no, no. The Gragas is because, number one, it denies it from Fnatic. 2, it's good into Akali. 3, it acts as a source of AP damage, which means you can diversify your portfolio a little bit more. And 4, I think it's one of the strongest junglers on the current patch. Maybe Bwipo just sucks on Akali. Could also be a possibility. I wouldn't say that for sure. I don't know, but it is a possibility. Anyway, right. So let's get into the game. Fnatic versus G2, Game 3, the big throw. Let's find out. Let's find out how it all happens. So Fnatic do the same thing that G2 did in Game 2. They put themselves in a position to avoid getting collapsed on. Here we tell you a little bit about the history of G2 versus Fnatic and how often it is very one-sided. And we were expecting it to be one-sided again. We all thought this would be it. 3-0 for G2. So I want to remind people, if you've only just joined us, G2, I think that it's really difficult for them to look for early ganks. If I'm the Gragas player here, I'm a little concerned when I look at all these lanes. I think the easiest and safest lane would be mid at early levels. But bot lane is scary to gank, and I think top lane is scary to gank as well. Whereas for Fnatic, Broxah should definitely be looking to play around his Renekton. I think it's always important to get your Renekton ahead early. See, I just find that annoying. Don't you just find my own voice annoying? Oh, man. Oh, no. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. See, at this point, I'm like, well, G2 is tilted. Yanks is bot lane. I'm not sure he can do a lot here, though, to be honest. Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, I'm not sure why he even tried to go in that early, to be honest. It's so dangerous. Silly, silly Mickey. So you can see in terms of the pathing, Broxah went blue into red into Krugs, and then into Scuttle. Gets him level 3 and allows him to play around top. Meanwhile, Yanko stole away Gromp. He probably assumed his Gromp would get stolen as well, to be fair. And then they dive. We said they wanted to play around top, and Fnatic do exactly that. Really good dive from Fnatic in the early game. So now they already have a 1k gold lead. Oh man. G2 falling apart. They look for a gank onto Bwipo. Can they kill him? Just barely. Oof. So good answer. Alright, we need to slow the game down now. I just wanted to get through the early laning phase much quicker, but... So Wonder immediately TP's back in. Whip, of course, doesn't have flash, so Jankos knows he can make this play. He doesn't finish his wolves, actually, so he's not level 4. But Wonder was forced to flash there to get the kill. And he used the remount, which is why they could go for the dive. That's a good roam for Mickey, because he could have died there. Caps. I don't know if Caps is playing that aggressive, because he knows the roam is coming. But Nemesis definitely was in a position to kill him. For the record, by the way, you can see that Nemesis did in fact go Conqueror. I think it makes more sense against the tankier units. And the expectation is that he'll look to play side lane at some point against these, so you don't need the burst. Pardon me. Wow. Fnatic go for a super early Drake. I wonder why they get away with that. Both mid laners reset and they'll look to TP back in. But Gragas is on his way. Now I'm like, they can't go for this for free. Oh, but Caps took a really bad trade mid. Oh, but even so, Brox is still forced off. Yeah, but I mean, I saw him start that and I was like, I don't know if you can do this, bro. Wonder, wait, where did Wonder come from? I didn't notice him at all. Oh, so he starts pathing top, he sees them start Drake, and he's like, I need to be in position for this. Top is slow pushing towards him anyway. So this is really fine. Well, he plays that quite well. Nemesis can't trade aggressively though because he saw Wonder. And then Wonder's in time to catch the top wave. Capstar has to be careful. I think he wanted to go for the honey fruit, but he couldn't get it because Renekton is there. So now all three of them are hanging around mid. They have their eyes set on Caps. Nemesis goes in because he knows he has top laner and jungler here as well. Yanko sidesteps. Oh, I thought Nemesis actually used his ultimate, but he didn't. Mickey. The Ignite gets thrown down. Okay, now they go for the Drake again. Again, no TP top. They don't have Prio in mid either. Bot lane is pushed in. This is still a pretty dangerous Drake to do. And G2 have full information, and then Caps dies. So the thing is, if Caps wins this 1v1, then they can collapse on this Drake super easily. But the moment he dies, it's over. Thing is, I think Caps wanted to use W, but he doesn't have vision. Yeah, he got smashed. And then Jankos is in trouble as well. Oh, Reckless wants to try and use the feathers thing here. But he doesn't get 3 down in time. So he doesn't root him. Ooh, but still, I still think this overall, like, this Drake isn't super safe. Because, again, they don't have push in mid, so the Akali's not here already. And these two are coming in from the flank. And they can fight. Like, he has pickaxe. It's not like they're weak. He also has his Ignite up, whereas he doesn't. The biggest thing is the mid laners. So the moment Caps dies, they no longer can go for this play. Even if Nemesis doesn't have ult, it doesn't really matter. Because they still have more people. And more people is all you need. So he has to disengage. Yeah, Caps getting solo kill was pretty bad there. G2, see, I would say like G2 are mental booming at this point. I'm like, it's doomed. It's gonna be 3-0. They're getting smashed. Wait. Let's backtrack. So he does the stun. His Q is a little wide. Like he can't W anyone. See, he needs to ult earlier. If he had ulted now, good shroud from Nemesis. But because Caps can't W, he can't get any health back. Which I think is the biggest reason why he lost that 1v1. So now he is massively far behind. Remember when we said it's a skill matchup? Usually when one outskills the other, it ends up being pretty bad. Now we see Jankos pathing up towards top. So there's no jungle camps to clear on the bot side, and he knows the top lane flash is still down. So they think that they can look for it, especially given that Wonder has ulti. Even though Pippa has a level advantage, he's only sitting on a Kindle gem right now. It's like, this is a relatively safe play. They can dive this. Yep. Easy dive. But Fnatic does exactly the same thing on the other side of the map. Hellsang with a good flash there. Yeah, so the problem is for the knockup comes through before Fnatic actually hit anyone. So the ignite comes down, then the flay. So now Hillesang will take one tower shot and then flash out immediately. And then Perks is just like, well, I'm not going to bother flashing. I'm dead. So they trade on the other side. And they force a flash out from Mickey. Overall, this is better. Well, I say it's better. Bwipo is falling behind, but Reckless and Hillesang getting even further ahead. So given that Nemesis and Reckless are both strong, when you transition into the mid game, doesn't matter. You can just build tanky on Renekton. And then he dies again. Holy moly. Wait, there's so many people fucking dying right now. Okay. So what's important here is recognizing if there are any like big mistakes being made. So is Bwipo being here a mistake? Inherently, I don't think so. A wave gets pushed in, he assumes that the Kled has gone back to base. Right, that is his assumption. Kled doesn't have TP, so Kled wants to get a good base timing off, get Tiamat, and then come back into lane. So Bwipo wants to push this in. And he's just using Q. He's not using any of his escapes as well, which is just smart. Right, so then Jankos comes in. Do I blame Bwipo for this? No, I think this is fine. Of course, Silas also roams up top, which is completely unnecessary. I don't think Caps needed to move, but if he gets a kill here, then he gets some gold in his back pocket. But in the same vein, Fnatic do the exact same thing on the bot side of the map. Should G2 have seen this? Well, they do see this. Instead, it looks like they think they can outplay it, rather than just conceding. Because I think the mistake here is G2's bot lane should have just conceded, right? If they see this dive coming from a mile away, then you just accept the fact that there's nothing you can do and you get out. But maybe they also think that it's too late for them to get out. Like at this point. So in my head I'm thinking, if they start running now, do they live? I don't know. I mean, I think the play is the correct one from Fnatic. I don't know if it's the correct one from Perks and Mickey. Should they have stayed and tried to outplay, or should they have just left and accepted that the farm is gone? Either way, Fnatic end up in a really great spot now. They have Nemesis really fed, and now we see a bit of a mistake here from Caps. Tries his best, but he ends up dropping. Meanwhile, a play happens in bot lane as well, which is just fucking ridiculous. So there we have a mistake from Caps, but Caps is already having a terrible game, given that he gets freaking solo killed, and he's taking a lot of poor early trades as well. I want to know what happened, bot. So they TP back in, and Gragas paths straight towards bot lane, it looks like. So while the play is happening mid, he paths straight towards bot. They all in. I think it's because Reckless and Hillesang didn't reset. So this is now a mistake from the Fnatic bot lane. Great sidestep from Perks, but they just overstay here. They get all those plates, and they stay for another wave, and the cannon wave as well. This was them playing poorly, with which Jankos is able to punish. I mean, he's going to head bot anyway because his Krugs are up. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with him doing that. This is a good ulti from Mickey. This is not a good play from G2. So Mickey gets hooked by Hylissang. So again, they're not playing for any objective, they're just looking for a pick here. Mickey plays that well by getting the double taunt into knockup. They could just disengage from this point. Instead they think, let's fight. But they don't have any vision in river, so they actually don't know where anyone else is. So Brox is able to come over the wall. Now it's a 3 versus 3. But of course this would have been fine if they just get this kill and then maybe disengage. Oh, he actually gets a flay off at the last second, which is insane. But then of course Nemesis is here as well. And then Yankus. God, G2 are just like, in my opinion, G2 are mental booming now. Alright, so if you want to be like, discuss the quality of the league, right? Or is it like the quality of this game? The question should be, is Hylissang making this play a bad decision? So because they have bot pushed, and they have control over the river, them going for this pick is not. Does it net in any objectives? Probably not. But if they do find this kill, Perks is zoned away from more farm, and it could allow Reckless and Hylissang to get more plates. So like going for this pick is fine, because they also know that Akali is in a position where she can roam down, but they have their jungler behind them anyway. So look, you can see Akali gets the push in mid, gets to move first. So G2 in this situation, they're the ones that make the mistake, because they should just disengage, because they don't have information on where Broxer is. So they then go in, think that they can burst Hylissang. Great stopwatch from Hylissang to just buy time, while Perks eats a lot of damage. And then he gets a flay out at the last second as well. But then Perks dies, Yankos tries to flash over the wall, instead flashes into it. But he shouldn't have tried to flash anyway, because he was getting executed. And then Wonder walks all the way down, which means that Renekton gets all this free time on the top lane tower, and Brox is just buying time. So I think the mistakes here come from G2. I think Fnatic going for that play in the first place was fine. And it ends up being 2 for 2 overall. But like, look at all these plates that Renekton is just picking up. Wonder's now forced to TP top probably. Or not, or all the farm literally just goes to waste. Now Wonder looks like he's overextended bot again. He's able to get out. Yeah. Yeah, in my opinion, it looks like G2 are mental booming right now. And then Wonder just outplays the fuck out of Hylissang. Oh my god. So now... Alright. So again, let's evaluate. Is the decision being made a mistake, or does it make sense? So what Hylissang wants to do is he wants to keep Wonder around so that they can maybe set up a dive. He doesn't have his ultimate, but Reckless is pushing in the wave, and once they hit the tower, they can threaten to kill him. Now this is obviously very dangerous because it's Kled, right? But what's important to recognize in this situation is that whatever's happening, G2 is abandoning bot and is playing towards top. Because that bot tower is gone. There's nothing they can do to save it. So instead what they'll do is they'll play for plates top and maybe look for a Rift Herald. Whereas Fnatic will play for plates and the tower bot and look for Drake. So, backtracking a little bit. Hylissang trying to interrupt this back, ultimately not the worst decision in the world, but also not the best one. Because Kled is one of those champions that can very easily turn around a dive because of his ulti. So the best play is to actually just let him go to base. And then secure the tower for free. But of course there is the potential that he TPs back in. So you've got to weigh up the cost benefit, right? Is it worth keeping him around in order to potentially kill him so that we can set up a dive, get a kill plus the tower plates? Or do we want to keep him around so that he can't TP back in and potentially defend the tower with his Tiamat? Or do I just let him base and hope that he doesn't come bot? To be fair though, if he does come bot, we'll probably dive him because we have Elise in with us soon. Ultimately though, he doesn't try to interrupt the back. He just walks up, takes a tower shot, gets auto attack, takes another tower shot. So regardless of, at the end of the day, regardless of whether or not it was a good decision, he just played that terribly. He just, like, look, auto, shoot, chase. So again, remember that because this play is happening and G2 acknowledge that the bot tower is going, they now get to make a play up towards top side. So then Nemesis TP's in, and this is when Nemesis goes, like, God mode. So great stun and damage from Bwipo onto Perks. Puts Perks at a HP bar where Nemesis can actually just kill him. Auto into execute. And then he looks at Mickey and he's like, yeah, the great thing is like, I can't even track what Nemesis is doing here. I think he flashes into, yeah, he Q flashes autos, and he dodges out of the way of the Caps thing. Whew, that was a great outplay from Nemesis, to be fair. Wait, and then what happens bot lane? And then the Kled dies bot! So it ends up being worth in the end. Okay. This game is getting really messy. Whew. So, all in all, I think G2 have made a huge number of mistakes in this early game. Largely individual mistakes, though. Not like map movement mistakes. I just think individually they've made mistakes. They made a lot of dumb decisions. Oh, pardon me. Excuse me. So yeah, G2 needs to calm down. Fnatic's decision making has been better overall, I think, and they've been playing the map better than G2 have in the early game. But Bwipo didn't again. Like, I think a lot of what Bwipo does is like, my team has TP in mind, so I should be fine, and then he hopes to outplay, and then usually he buys enough time for his team to then show up. But in the end of the day, Nemesis, what, they get 3 kills for 2, so it definitely works out, and they'll secure bot tower too. But I think Bwipo should have been aware that this cross-map play was guaranteed to happen. It was always going to happen. While Fnatic secure the bot tower. Caps are gonna die. Okay, Mickey sees all of this. Perk steals the red buff away. Fnatic could have gone for Drake here, but they chose not to. Oh, they're still gonna go for it. This could be dangerous because Gragas is resetting, but Caps overstays top lane. If Gragas had immediately pathed bot, they probably could have contested this, but they don't want to. Looks like, to be fair, I don't blame them. Akali's giga-fed. They probably lose, and Bwipo has teleport, so you know what? I'll forgive you. Yeah, G2 have made a huge number of mistakes in this early game. But again, like, they're all individual. Like, the players have just played really badly. Ooh, another teleport. So now the question is, why is he using his TP top? So we would assume that G2 is actually looking to TP top in order to then push out mid and make a play for Herald, given that Silas is heading top lane as well. But you can also see why it's really scary for Jankos to actually try and gank a Renekton lane, because Renekton's a pain in the backside. But of course they can't game Prio mid because there's only 2 of them. But now they should move. No? No one is dealing with Nemesis bot. They're trying to get more gold back onto Caps by giving him the solo top tower. Kled actually walks all the way back down to bot. Damn. Wonder's lost like so much farm. It's actually ridiculous how much farm he has lost. So now they probably send Bwipo bot. Because he has TP. Wonder is in danger. Nemesis overstays a little bit. So the problem for G2 now, and again I'll pause it at 15 minutes. Okay, so they're just keeping Nemesis bot. I thought they would bring Nemesis top because he doesn't have TP, but because of how strong he is and no one can fight him, they're just like, we're fine. So let's pause it here. The position that G2 find themselves in is a 2.5, 3k gold lead at 15 minutes. If we remember what we were saying earlier, it feels like that Fnatic ultimately have more options to play through in the early game, and overall a stronger early game. Whereas G2 is a little bit more about team fighting and scaling. Now, the problem for G2 is that they've made a number of mistakes, namely dying 1v1 in mid lane, dying 2v2 bot lane, and they've taken a few fights which they weren't actually in a good map state in order to contest. So G2 have played this early game horrendously. This has probably been the worst early game that they've had so far, and it's mainly because Caps is underperforming. Right now, what they find themselves in is with Fnatic, who have a fed Akali, a fed Xayah, and while Bwipo is behind, he's still just going to be a meat shield in the mid to late game, and Renekton can still do decent damage even when there's a slight deficit. So like, G2 can't fight or contest for any objective because of how weak they are. And there's not a world in which they actually win, because Nemesis is already level 11 at 15 minutes with a completed Gunblade, and I think he has more items on top of it. So at this point in the game, I'm like, it's over. It's doomed. Like, G2's mental is broken. I would have come into next week saying that like G2 look completely out of sorts. I think G2 have gone like really sloppy, because I do think that like they take a lot more fights than they definitely should. But individually, like, the problem is I can't sit there and criticize them for their macro, because their macro is not what's letting them down right now. The pushing the buttons is what's letting them down, which is why I loved it when Frosk said this is not a mental problem, this is a button pushing problem, which is ultimately what it was. Ultimately, like, if we think about it, Yanko's flashed into a wall rather than over the wall. Like, even if he wouldn't have survived off the back of that, things like that were a problem. And it does feel like in every single game, G2's players have just been playing poorly. So if I have any criticism for G2, it is that, or based on this series, it is that G2's players have shown inconsistency. Alright? Like, we've seen the low lows of G2's players, which is scary when you think about it, right? Because if you're thinking about G2 in international competition, the biggest question of how will G2 perform is around, well, what G2 shows up on the day. Now, I did hear that they didn't scrim a huge amount this week. They were playing a lot of WoW Classic. But at the same time, you know, like, how seriously do they take these things? I mean, Grab says it's not cause for concern. You're right. If they all play at their peak level, then we get to see Games 4 and Game 5, which again we'll cover a little bit later. But yeah, that would be my biggest criticism for G2, and that, like, what this series showcased to me was that G2 have high variability in what their individual performance looks like, and you never really know which one you're going to get. For the vast majority of the split, we've had G2 at a higher end, whereas against Fnatic, a team that could challenge them in the early game, we've seen more of the lower end. Now again, that's not me trying to take anything away from Fnatic, right? Because I think that in the first game, they played extremely well. I liked overall what they did with their comp, how they approached the game. In game two, they got a little messier, a little scrappier, but every time these scraps were happening, they were actually converting them into objectives. And then here in game 3, it does actually feel like they're playing around their strengths of their comp, and they're actually doing a great job in the early game as well. But they are just straight up outplaying G2. So now we're at a point where they're ahead, even though the kills are even, the gold is massively in their favor, and two of their biggest carries have all the resources. So Fnatic can now start, they can easily play for the Rift Tile, G2 can't contest, they can look to take these outer towers down, and they can look to systematically destroy G2. On paper, this should be like a 25 to 30 minute game where Fnatic just stomped G2. Based on how things have currently gone, not only in this series, but how things are looking in this game. So the big question I'll have is, what exactly goes wrong where everything changes? You can see Cap's getting smashed by Nemesis right now. Nemesis can't commit because he doesn't have his ulti up. Just as I'm saying that, it looks like Hill is saying also not having the best Thresh game as he... Oh, okay, to be fair, he recognizes they have a numbers advantage, so he's trying to run up to Yanko so that he can flay him. And then that was just a really great barrel from Yankos. That was actually an insane barrel from Yankos. Holy moly. So yeah, at least Yankos isn't running it down. So now they have a numbers advantage, and look at how they... So this is why I sit there and say, like, the basics and like fundamentals of League still exist for G2. When sieging for this tower, they flank both sides of the mid tower to force Fnatic to disengage to allow these three to hit it. This is why I also think that Bwipo's decision making is really good, because he uses his ultimate and he immediately scares G2 off, so they can't threaten the tower. Like, just good decision making there from both teams. Allows them the opportunity to reset. So now both teams want to like set up for Rift Tile, but again, G2's not strong enough to be able to contest. They have closed the goal gap a little bit, but they have to just be really careful. They're just maintaining vision control. If they can deny the Herald from Fnatic, that's probably the best bet for them, because it means they can hold on to their mid tower for longer. But that mid tower is likely going to die anyway. Kled is just holding the Renekton for now. I want to speed this up a little bit. Interesting that Nemesis goes for a large rod now, rather than something like an Oblivion Orb. Because Oblivion Orb would be super good. So G2 are trading bot tier 1. I think they also have to reset. So Nemesis gets top tower, so someone has to catch that wave. I'm not sure what I'm pointing out there, but I'm probably saying something really smart. So Rift Tile goes to Fnatic. Drake is spawning soon. G2 gain control over the bot side of the map, but not for long. Nemesis is like, thank you for my blue buff. Well, Fnatic take that because G2 just looked to reset. So now Fnatic make their way towards Drake. And again, notice how G2 not bothering to fight, conceding. They have to because they're not strong enough right now. They're lucky that these Drakes are just clouds and oceans. Another ocean will be spawning. But now at this point, G2 is just kind of waiting to hit their item spikes and then be like, alright, let's hope Fnatic make a mistake. So now Fnatic will want to like push their vision line a little bit deeper. They still have the Herald, so it's really easy for them to threaten things. But they've now divided the map up a little bit because no one can 1v1 Nemesis. So they can leave him in a bot lane. And G2 will luckily try to... they're going to try and siege onto mid? It's tough. Ooh, interesting. Nemesis just bases and runs down mid. Looks like Fnatic are trying to set up for a fight here. Ooh. Yeah. So ultimately this is a bit of a weird fight. Because it looks like they're not playing for any objective. However, if they win this, they can probably go for a 20-minute Baron. So they don't have any flank wards to TP on, but they know Kled is bot lane. So if they force a play now, before the Kled gets there, they're in a great spot. Problem is it takes them a little too long, but they do find a good hook onto Caps. And they almost managed to kill him. Jankos then gets flanked by Broxer, who they don't see because he's just been sitting in this brush this whole time. In an ideal world, he probably wants perks, but... And then this is where the fight gets pretty crazy. Mickey taunts up some people. He tries to peel for perks. See, and then they use the Rift Child, and now they can go for Baron. So this is the game plan from Fnatic. And ultimately, it's a one fight for them. And they can't contest. So I sat there and said they weren't playing for an objective, but what Fnatic saw was a great opportunity for them to go for a good fight without needing to set up for the Baron. Because Broxer was in a good flanking position. They had the bot wave pushed in, and top wave wasn't threatening them. They also knew how strong they were, so they knew they could try and force a fight right now. So rather than go through the palooza of setting up for an objective, they found a different way to do it. Which was effectively... I'm not going to say it was quite ARAMing because they flanked, but it is effectively, you know, all running at mid. And then, of course, Nemesis almost kills Perks here, but just getting that single kill and forcing everyone back is good enough. Good fight from Fnatic, though. Really good fight. So now they have the Baron, and this is why I'm saying, like, 25-minute game, Fnatic 3-0 G2. We sit there and say G2 massively underperformed. Fnatic, currently the best team in Europe. Fnatic in the final. Blah, blah, blah. That's what this story was supposed to be. So again, Fnatic taking their time. They push in mid tier 2. They pushed in top tier 2. Now the thing is, Fnatic are always going to win this trade. So Kled is like, I was watching this and thinking Kled, but G2 saying if we fight them and we lose, the game's over. Let me know if I need to come, but I don't think they can siege. I don't think they have the wave clear. So G2 just tries to hold out. They hold for as long as they can. Kled gets mid tier 1. Definitely a good tower to get, and G2 are able to hold the line. So again, Fnatic looking very good. They don't overstep. Everything they're doing is very clean. They're utilizing their early game gold lead very effectively. Fnatic playing a very good game so far. And if the VOD were to end now, I'd be like, well, G2 just... They played like garbage in this game. I know the kills look close, but to be honest, like... Jankos played well and Wonder, but Caps had a really bad game. Mickey had a really bad game. Perks, you could debate, he made some mistakes. Individually, they were outclassed. So they're going to take the final... Oh, no, they want to maximize the Baron, so they're going to go for this tower as well. Do you see how, like, Fnatic, though, they just don't slow down? They're just like, keep going, keep going, keep going. We know how strong we are. We know we can keep forcing this. We're great. We're happy. Let's keep going. This is what a strong, proactive team looks like. This is why you can be excited about Fnatic, because they don't waste time. They're not dancing around. They're not waiting for an optimal setup. They're just like, nope, we're stronger. If you fight us, you'll die. Nemesis is level 15. Good stuff, good stuff. They suffocate out the enemy vision. And but my point is, right, what I want you to do is I want you to, after you watch this game, watch an SKT game. And just watch the difference. And you'll notice it. This is not what SKT do when they have a lead. So, the Baron buff is worn off. Fnatic got a bunch of outer towers down. Or inner towers, rather. They got themselves an inhibitor. So now they're just waiting for Baron to spawn. So Fnatic's next steps will be pushing in mid lane. They automatically get pushed on top. They can send Nemesis bot if they want to, but they'll get all this vision down to the top side jungle. They'll set up around the river, and then the moment Baron spawns, they'll just do it. G2 can't really contest. There's little that they can do. And again, they're trying to get to the wave as quickly as possible so they can clear that one out, and then they'll move back into the jungle. Well, they should do anyway. So they've got some deep vision down here around the lane. They're actually resetting so they can restock on wards once more, because G2 now have to expend their vision just to get back into their own jungle. Where's Fnatic now with the buff up? They're like, yeah, no, we're good. It's all dark. They can't see a thing. They're just waiting for the waves to push in. They'll go back to mids, get prio. Okay. Hillisang. Okay. So this is where I think the mistake comes in from Fnatic. This is definitely where the mistake comes in from Fnatic. So Fnatic have two choices here. By gaining mid prio, they can easily move into enemy jungle, clear all this out, and look, there's no vision left. There's nothing. G2 would walk into that jungle blind, which means that Fnatic would have the perfect team fight. They would either get the Baron or they would get the fight, and with the Baron they end the game. But Hillisang decides to go on to Caps. He burns everything. Ulti's gone, Ignite is gone, everything is gone. So then they think that because G2 have to take the long way round, they have easy access onto this mid tower. And I think this is a mistake. This is where Fnatic blunder. Because what they end up doing is Nemesis then like makes a bit of a split decision here. They're trying to find a pick. But look at how the engage comes. Straight onto Reckless. They one-shot him and now half the damage is gone. Now, of course, Nemesis is still alive. So he's able to... oh man, that flash from Perks in the cast actually just blew me away. Because he reacted to the Nemesis ultimate. And I'm pretty sure he does it blind as well. So bear in mind, he can't see Nemesis right now. Still can't see Nemesis. Still can't see Nemesis. Still couldn't see him. So he ends up still dying anyway, but... So, Fnatic at the mid tower, but you now got to think about all the shutdowns that G2 got, right? So now all that vision setup and all that time is gone. So now Fnatic can't do the Baron, G2 gets to clear out the top side jungle, they get to pick up all this farm, their top inhibitor is respawned, G2 get to stall now. And again, like, this is what the decision was the mistake, I think, because it allowed G2 to find a team fight, and most importantly, they killed Reckless. If Reckless lives here, this game is probably over here. But G2 are good enough as a team to identify who the easiest target to kill is, and they killed him. And of course, Nemesis still cleans up at the end of the fight. This could have been much worse if it weren't for the fact that he was giga-fed, and he played the Akali really well. But okay, so now Fnatic, they want to do exactly what they just did. Get mid prio, Move up to enemy topside jungle. Start clearing all this out. And then make a play for Baron. So what you're seeing right now is what they wanted to do before. But of course, Mickey has snuck into behind them. And this is where you get to see like G2 kind of returning to form. So now Mickey seems to know that this is going on. He gets vision. He knows. They don't know Mickey's there. So Hylissang again. Hylissang, man. I did not realize all the things that Hylissang did this game. So he flashes in to hook the Jankos. The Gragas. And he doesn't find it. So then Nemesis. Okay, we gotta slow this down. So again, Mickey is still coming in on the flank. The Gragas barrel comes in onto Hylissang. They want to try and burst him out maybe. Brox has lost a decent amount of health. Bear in mind, the Baron applies a debuff so that you have less armor and magic resistance. That's important to remember. Because they were dueling it. So a lot of those stacks will be built up. They're squishier than they normally are. Now the thing is, Nemesis runs away to get out of Perks' range. But he also then walks face first into Mickey, who keeps him preoccupied. Now the E is actually sitting on top of Jankos, so he then tries to get away from Mickey, jumps onto him, and now he's in range for Perks to execute him. So with Nemesis now dead, jeez. So I mean like, so the thing is, right, this fight never really goes well anyway, because this is still here, so G2 know this is going on, and the amount of pressure being applied to them is nowhere near the same, because top wave hasn't been set up, Fnatic don't have prio over mid, all of the vision control, like, there's vision set up, but it's not actually stopping. Like, look, Thresh isn't like here, like the Renekton, they're not in the river, they're not zoning G2 away, which means G2 get free access to the Baron. So Fnatic, I feel like after that fight, started to panic. And they messed up a lot of their steps in terms of actually setting up for this Baron, and it gave G2 this opportunity to come in. Now again, like I really want to highlight this flank from Mickey is really good because of the pressure that it puts onto Nemesis. Like it just keeps him out of the fight for a little bit longer to allow Bwipo to get melted, and then he comes in actually onto Wonder. But then look at how quickly Perks just blows him up. And you think at this point, okay, the teamfight is won for G2 yet again. They've won the second teamfight in a row. But then the young boy Reckless, bear in mind again, the Baron does like obnoxious amounts of damage. Still does obnoxious amounts of damage. But then the flank comes in and you're like, okay, this is it. The game's going to be over here. But finally a good hook lands for Hylissang. He dies. Wonder gets rooted up so he can't chase onto the AD carry. Good Lantern drags him out to safety. And then they funnel in here thinking they can get him. But then of course Reckless with the feathers ends up finding a double. I mean, it's an intense fight, man. Like, so many little things, if they had gone slightly differently. You can see how this game slowly starts. And, like, it all comes down to that single play. The fact that Mickey was able to get in from this flank. And the fact that, like, Hylissang tries to flash engage in that initial setup. Now, of course, the funniest thing about this is that Fnatic did actually set up all that vision. The problem with their Baron was that they didn't have the lanes set up properly. So G2 weren't forced to catch these waves. They could just walk through all this vision and it didn't matter. I had a point to that. Oh yeah, which means that because all this vision is here, Nemesis can now TP in for flank, and so can Bwipo. So here come the TPs. There's number 1, there's number 2. They now think that if they get this double kill, they can go straight to Baron. But of course, in Reckless trying to keep them there, doesn't respect the fact that Wonder has Flash. So now, G2 is on the escape. They're trying to get out. Wonder's going to die to Nemesis. There's nothing he can do about that. And now, everything returns to normality. 4 people alive on both sides. Reckless is dead, Wonder is dead. The biggest difference, Reckless has TP, Wonder doesn't. So if Fnatic wanted to force another Baron, they could. They just have to be super aggressive in how they do it. So they need to gain control over top. They need to maintain vision over the enemy jungle. But they haven't actually refreshed any of their control wards. Because Nemesis TP'd back in along with Bwipo, neither of them have that vision. Instead, they're going for the Drake. They're just accepting the reset. So they're slowing the game down. Fnatic are looking to see if G2 are contesting them for it. Okay. What do Fnatic do now? So I feel like at this point they should just take the Drake, right? Like, just do it. Your AD carry is dead. But now they've changed their mind. They've said, oh, they're in the river. Jankos is low. Let's go. So now they want to try and get a collapse. They gain mid prio. Or like they get the push in mid. They know the TP can come in sooner. And so they're like, we can go for this. Gragas barrel comes from Jankos to disengage. They're running. They want to get out. Mickey's like, I'm probably dead. Oh, no. Okay, so now Fnatic goes straight back to the Baron. Of course, Kled now has respawned because they tried to go for these fights. And then the flank TP comes in from who? From the Silas. Okay. So the Baron's getting low. Very likely that G2 actually can't contest this. They go in. And then the Baron gets stolen. Now, in the moment, I actually didn't notice that the Baron got stolen. Because I saw this red tinge and think that Fnatic has it. And of course, because it's Gragas, my brain goes Broxer. But of course, goddamn Jankos actually steals it away. Okay, let's slow this fight down. Alright, so Caps comes in from the flank. 3 members of G2 are funneled into this choke point, can't do much. Mickey gets hooked up. So the question is, like, it looks like Fnatic are deciding whether to commit to the Baron or turn. They seem a little split. So Broxer goes in. Caps actually steals Brox's ult, kicks him away. Doesn't matter. He still could have smited that. He did, in fact, smite that. What level is he? 13? Jankos level 14? Smite comes through. They smited it. Wait. No! What the hell? How did he even... What did he steal it with? What the hell did he... What did Jankos steal that with? Oh, his smite is up. My apologies. I messed up. He does smite it. Jankos walks up. 889. I swear they smite at the same time. What did Mickey say? He smited you, noob? Yeah, okay, sorry. I saw this and I'm like, wait, his smite is on cooldown. $889 damage. But Brox is smiting at exactly the same time. Unless Brox mucks up his smite. Did they literally smite at the same time? They must have smited at the same time. What the... What? I swear to God, they smite at literally the same time. Wait. Wait. How much damage does your... Wait. Smite. Oh, it tells you how much damage it does somewhere. Yeah, based on level. Oh, here we go. Okay. So he's level 13. He does 760. He does 800. So one of them smote first. It must have been Broxer. Because Broxer's smite right now, at level 13, does 760 damage. Whereas Jankos's does 800. So, because he smites at this point, 889, it goes down to like 100 HP, and Jankos is like a fraction of a second later than him. Oh my word. That was so close. That's actually just so insane. Oh man. How close was that smite fight? So clearly that was Yankos's like big brain. Holy moly, that's crazy. Wow. Alright, well, let's backtrack. So that was the smite. Jankos gets smite steal, okay? Wonder goes in. Perks is dealing with Nemesis right now. Where does he get that shield from? Oh, he probably gets it from the Muramana or something, right? That face. Oh, PD, yeah, my apologies. PD. Thank you, chat. Thank you. He gets it from his PD. I didn't see that he had it. My bad. So, of course, because they only lose Jankos, they then get prio on mid. At this point, I thought they could have even ended, because both of them are dead. Then they decide not to. Whew. I mean, like, there's a large element of luck in this game. let's be honest. I mean, like, props to G2, right? Because considering how atrociously their early game went, the fact that they were able to find that small window to come back is pretty ridiculous. So now, like, the game is fully in their control. He's now equalized the items that Reckless has. Caps has finally hit level 16 and has at least 3 items. Meanwhile, Wonder is unkillable. So now they have the Baron. Now they're going to play along the 2 lanes where their inhibitors are exposed so they don't get snuck away. Reckless is trying to lure the mobs away, but Wonder still has 2 of them. They're going to push up through top into the enemy jungle and then play through the top lane. Once the wave hits, they'll also go back to mid and they'll play through these 2. They just have to be careful now of a Fnatic re-engage around here. Silas playing with... Oh... Look at that laugh. Look at that face. He's like, that's the face of a man who said, if you got interrupted there, I was going to kill you. We can't see it because my face is in the way. I'm sorry. Ah, well. Guess you'll have to watch the VOD. Sucks for you. And just see my face instead. Just know that I was enjoying it. Alright, so. Alright. Let's think. What do both teams want to do right now? Well, I mean, I guess at this point in the game, it obviously gets a lot harder. The gold is now pretty much dead even. G2 have a level advantage. They have been able to close the gold gap. Elder and Baron become the next primary objectives. But the problem is that they spawn at the same time. So Fnatic aren't so weak that they're just going to lose the next few fights. Obviously, there is a big difference because, like, Jankos in terms of teamfight presence and Broxah, Gragas is always going to be more valuable, and he's going to just do way more damage. Mickey is going to offer way more in teamfights than Hylissang is, so Fnatic trying to teamfight G2 at this point is just... they're not going to win. Level 40 and 8 bars? What? God damn. This has somehow become a World of Warcraft chat. So Fnatic are kind of limited in options in terms of coming back into this game because team fighting is pretty much the only way when you're at this point and when the map is so exposed, unless they can find a way to sneak it. But G2 right now are setting a vision around the bot side of the map. I guess the question for me is, which one do they prioritize, Elder or Baron? Because like the Elder might give Fnatic enough teamfight power to be able to fight back. Because I guess Fnatic's best bet right now is to... Oh. I guess try to find a pick. So I saw this and I thought to myself, this was going to be it. And then I remember that Kled ult does like nothing in this situation. If this was Kiana, they all die, right? But Kled just kind of goes in, gets kicked out, the Perks gets knocked up. Then he's immediately out of the fight. Mickey goes in, instantly dies. So the moral of the story is, this looks like a really good fight initially, and then you remember Kled does absolutely nothing. So Mickey just dies, and then Fnatic can keep the chase going. How... This champion is broken. Wait, okay. So this is where G2 get pretty big brain now. So, but they all split off trying to chase down Wonder, so he's buying time. Renekton realizes that there's a wave going to crash onto the tower, and then immediately Perks TPs to it. So good awareness from Whippo to react in time. He then gets Skull back. They try to then set up a collapse onto Perks. Wonder's like, I will keep you alive. Perks is forced to flash. Wonder nearly kills Nemesis. How broken is this champion? Full health Akali. Oh my... Alright, so do you remember when we were talking about max level W? Look at his health bar. What is that? What is that damage? What is this champ? That's... What the hell is that? Alright, late game Kled is pretty scary. So Nemesis gets forced out. Meanwhile, the fight is happening down here. Oh my god. This was such a fun game. I mean, it's still ridiculous. Right, let's also try and track what's happening over here. So, I'm going to watch the minimap. So he TPZ up. TPZ. They end up in a 2 versus 2. It looks like it's... Oh no, mid jungle versus support jungle. So support jungle is always going to lose that. So jungle flashes out. Thresh then ends up in a 1 versus 2, but then the Renekton rejoins and is like, well, I'm here to fight. Then he gets all this AP back. Yankos just blows up the low health bar of Broxer. Reckless flashes in, Yankos is going to die. Perks pushes in top. And now Baron and Elder spawn in 40 seconds. Everyone should be alive in time for that. Holy moly. Wonder's not going to die here. Alright, so Kled is giga broken, is what we've learned. I mean, it's funny because we talked about it in draft when we were saying, like, late game, I think Kled scales really well. And then we looked at how much damage, and then we got to see it happen in the game, which is pretty cool. Okay. So this is where Fnatic decide, okay, their jungler is dead, ours is alive, he's probably going to get here first, we as a 3-man can rush this down, but of course Perks is still in a position nearby, because I don't think he's actually based yet. So he's nearby, him and Mickey here, and of course Wonder has TP, so he's basing, he then TPs in. They think they can take this fight, but of course there's a secondary TP from Caps as well, so it ends up being a 4 versus 3. Perks showcases that this champion outscale. Oh, it also helps that... Oh my god, look at that damage from Perks. Knock up into goodbye. He's dead. Nemesis gets chased. And that's game over. Whoa! What a ridiculous game. G2 giga trolled in the early game. Oh man. Yankos, that smite was unbelievable. And then G2 get the game. Well, so I do feel that Fnatic panicked a little bit once they lost that mid lane team fight, and I do think that Fnatic ultimately made a huge mistake going for this tower. This was the mistake that I think cost Fnatic the game. And unfortunately, after they lost this fight, it felt to me like they panicked, because then when we see them set up for the next Baron, notice how they have all of this vision around here, but they don't actually stop G2 from entering because they start the Baron before gaining control over top and control over mid. This gave G2 the opportunity to just walk through their own half of the jungle uncontested so they could approach. Meanwhile, Mickey's flank was here. Like, G2 did a lot of things well in this situation, and I also think them finding the team fight mid was also really good. But also I think the Fnatic, to me it feels like that they panicked a bit. Now I can't say for sure, I don't know what the comms are like with Fnatic. However, you can see how they should have been trying to get mid prio first and the top push. They should have had control over their waves first and better control over the jungle to stop G2 from actually gaining access to the Baron. So, yep, and then G2 obviously, they're able to get the Smite Steal, and this wasn't even the Smite Steal one, I don't think. This was the crazy intense one. The really long, drawn out one. And like, I understand why G2 chased this, because like they have a TP fight coming in. From their perspective, this is done. It was a really good hook. But yeah, I think Fnatic had all the power in the world to 3-0 this series. They played really strong early game. They punished all the mistakes that G2 made. Individually, they outclassed them. And like, it should have been a 26-minute victory. Should have been over. But one or two small mistakes. But like, props to G2, right? The fact that they found those windows. Like, I think Wonder and Jankos really stepped up when the chips were down. Perks was obviously extremely valuable later on. And I like the flanks. I think Mickey was much more valuable in these team fights later on as well. Like, they got reinvigorated, you know? They washed off the tilt. But, yeah. Whew, alright. Great game overall. A lot of fun to watch. A lot of individual mistakes from G2. Showcasing they still have really good macro, really good understanding of how to play the map. And it's cool that you do see when other players fall, the other members will step up to compensate, which I think Wonder and Jankos did beautifully this game. So props to them. They had a really good game. Very unfortunate for Fnatic. This game could have easily been theirs. This could have been a 3-0. But in the end, once they made that one mistake, they couldn't like get their bearings back, and they ended up faltering. So that's going to do it for this recording. We're going to be jumping into Game 4 in a second after a very quick break. I'll see you then.